Our next guest is a true champion for American veterans and is a tried and true friend of all letter carriers, veterans, the middle class, and all working families. He's the author of the Postal Service Protection Act, currently the only effective piece of postal reform legislation on the table, which is also a model for similar House legislation by Representative DeFazio. He not only understands that the pre-funding of retiree health benefits is the primary reason for the Postal Service's troubles, he champions its elimination. Our Vermont carriers, led by President Jill Carbonneau, consider Bernie a true friend. We've been with him since the beginning. He's the longest-serving independent member of Congress, making him the voice of reason, especially on postal reform. He's currently also the chairman of the Senate Veterans Committee. Senator Sanders has committed his career to shrinking the widening income gap in this country that continues to grow. When he isn't championing the issues of workers and veterans, he has his hands in reversing global warming, advocating for universal health care, and continuing the discussion on fair trade policies and preserving family farms. Let's welcome our friend and our champion, Senator Bernie Sanders.
One, two, three, four.
Let me begin by thanking my Vermont delegation for encouraging me to come here and to thank all of you for inviting me to be with this great union. I was listening backstage to Mike lead in a beautiful way us singing the national anthem. And it made me realize again the fight that we are engaged in. And it is a fight about whether or not we are going to save this great country, whether we are going to be able to protect working families and our children and our grandchildren against the greed of a few who think that America belongs to them, not us. My dad came to this country at the age of 17 without a nickel in his pocket, and he never made much money. But he was so proud of this country because it enabled him and my mom to be able to send their kids to college, to make it into at least the lower middle class, do much better than they otherwise would have. As I look around this room and see so many of you, and I was here last night and I saw a lot of you with your blue shirts all over Philadelphia, it reminds me of one enormously important point, is that we are the majority of America, we are America, and when we stand together, there is nothing that we can't accomplish. Now, I want to thank all of you and the other postal unions for standing up and fighting to maintain decent-paying jobs and high-quality services at the United States Postal Service. And I mean very sincerely, I work with a lot of people in a lot of areas. But it has been a real honor and pleasure to work with your President, Fred Rolando, and his great staff. And all of you to protect, revitalize, and strengthen the Postal Service for the 21st century. And I want you to know that the work that you are doing is not only important to the jobs at the Postal Service, it is vitally important for the future of the entire American economy. Now, here's something that you should know. I work at an institution called the United States Congress. Our favorable ratings on a good day are at about 10%. That's a good day. In 2010, 83% of the American people gave favorable ratings to the United States Postal Service. In fact, the USPS is the highest rated and most popular government agency, and a lot of that has to do with you. You're out there in rain and snow and heat delivering the mail, and you're saying hello to people. You're saying hello to the elderly. You're there to see if there are problems. So thank you again for what you do every single day for the people of our country. Now, what is special about the Postal Service is that it provides universal, underlined, universal service 6 days a week. It provides that service to every corner of America, no matter how small or remote. That's a pretty big deal. That means you're delivering mail to a dirt road in rural Vermont, and we appreciate that. And you're delivering mail to the big companies located on Wall Street, and that's good too. You are there in every corner of America, and that is what the Postal Service has been and must continue to be. Furthermore, the Postal Service supports millions of jobs in virtually every sector of our economy. The economy does not work well without a strong, efficient postal service, and it provides decent-paying union jobs to some 500,000 Americans. And as chairman of the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs, I can tell you it is the largest employer of veterans in this country. Thank you very much for that. Now, I don't have to tell Fred or anybody in this room that in the last several years, we have been in an enormous struggle to save and preserve the United States Postal Service from those who want to do to the Postal Service what they want to do to Social Security, what they want to do to Medicare, what they want to do to Medicaid, what they want to do to the Veterans Administration, and that is to privatize virtually every agency of government, and we are not going to let them do that. As many of you know, just a few years ago, the Postmaster General of the United States came up with a disastrous plan for the Postal Service, and this is what that plan would have done. It would have eliminated some 220,000 Postal Service jobs, including the jobs of many veterans. Now, the struggle of our economy today is to increase decent-paying jobs, not to eliminate them. The Postmaster General's plan would have closed about 15,000 post offices throughout this country, including many in rural America. And in rural America, that small post office is not just a place where people pick up the mail. It is, in some cases, the center of town. It was what makes the town proud. We're not going to eliminate those post offices. And the Postmaster General wanted to eliminate over half of the mail processing plants in this country, which would substantially slow down the delivery of mail throughout America. And on top of all of that, they wanted to eliminate Saturday mail delivery. Well, guess what? I cannot tell you, I wish I could, that we have won a 100% victory, but because of the efforts of the NALC and the other postal unions, we fought back and we got the Postal Service to significantly revise that horrendous plan. And let us be clear, and you have to understand this, the only reason we succeeded is because your union and the other unions stood up and fought back. And that's what we have got to continue to do. And although it took an act of Congress, the Postal Service has decided to obey the law of the land, and 6-day mail delivery has not been eliminated. But the fight continues because these guys never give up. You beat them one day and they're back the next day. And right now, the Postmaster General recently announced his intention to shut down up to 82 mail processing plants, slowing mail services, and eliminating up to 15,000 jobs. And we're going to stop him in the next few months from doing that. And our message to Mr. Donahoe is simple and straightforward. And what we are saying is that at a time when the middle class of this great country is disappearing, at a time when unemployment is much too high, at a time when most of the new jobs being created are part-time and low wage, we are not going to destroy middle-class jobs in the Postal Service. Now, let me give you some good news, and it is very good news. You work, interestingly enough, for the only quasi-corporation in the world. Most corporations get very excited when their profits go up and when business is good. For some reason, the Postal Service gets very unhappy when business is good. Because their mantra for many, many years is we got to cut, because we're not making any money. And suddenly when the Postal Service starts to make money, they feel very guilty about it. But here is the good news, and it's news that everybody in this room has got to understand. Despite what you may have been hearing in the media, and despite what the Postmaster General has been saying, the United States Postal Service is not going broke. As all of you know, and our job is to make sure that every American understands this, the reason that the Postal Service struggles financially is because of a horrendous mandate signed into law by President George W. Bush in December of 2006. And that mandate forces the Postal Service to pre-fund 75 years of future retiree health benefits over a 10-year period. What you must understand, what the American people must understand, is this onerous and unprecedented burden that costs some $5.5 billion every year is responsible for all, underlined all, of the financial losses posted by the Postal Service since October 2012. Now, the Postal Service, and some in the media may not be happy about this, but here is the fact. From October 2012 until today, the Postal Service has made an operating profit of more than $1.2 billion if we exclude that pre-funding mandate. And before this pre-funding mandate was signed into law, the Postal Service was profitable year after year after year. In fact, from 2003 through 2006, Postal Service made a combined profit of more than $9 billion. Now, let's be clear. Let us be very, very clear on this issue. There is no business in America, no corporation in America, there is no government agency in America that has anything close to this onerous and horrendous mandate. We have got to get rid of that mandate once and for all. Every year, Postal Service has to drop $5.5 billion into that fund That fund has $47 billion in it today. Enough is enough. Let's end it. Now, what's going on in Congress, not surprisingly, is there are two separate efforts regarding the Postal Service. Some of us are trying to save the Postal Service. Some of us are trying to bring more jobs into the Postal Service. And on the other hand, over in the House of Representatives, the committee led by Darrell Issa, I was told that you would respond like that, but not quite as effectively and quickly and as loudly. That was pretty good. And let's be frank. Tell you what they want. Look, this is what these guys believe in. They don't believe in government. That's about it. And any agency of government that can be given over to the private sector, where in this case the FedExes and the other organizations can make money, that's what they want. They're not interested in quality service for the American people. They're not interested in protecting decent paying jobs. Bottom line is privatization. And what Darrell Issa wants to do is whoa, all right. I won't get through this speech if I mention his name again. And this is what these guys want to do, and you have to understand it. What they want to do is establish a control board with very broad authority. See, they're arguing that the Postal Service is falling apart, they're losing billions every year. What we need is a new authority, a control board, and they can shut down post offices all over America, shut down processing plants all over America, lay off workers all over America because it's an emergency. And you and I know that that is absolutely false. That is not what the American people want. That will be horrendous for our economy. Let me give you the alternative of what we are trying to do. Fred mentioned that we have introduced the Postal Service Protection Act. That is the strongest bill in Congress to protect the USPS. We have in the Senate 28 co-sponsors. Congressman Pete DeFazio of Oregon has 185 co-sponsors in the House. And let me tell you a little bit about what this legislation would do. This bill would reestablish strong overnight delivery standards to ensure the timely delivery of mail. The American people want that, and that's what we've got to do. It would prevent the closure of hundreds of mail processing plants and save the jobs of tens of thousands of workers. It would end once and for all this disastrous pre-funding mandate that is the major financial problem facing the Postal Service. And it would prevent the Postal Service from ending Saturday delivery. It would allow the Postal Service to recoup over $50 billion that it has overpaid into the civil service retirement system. And very importantly, look, we know the world has changed. We're not in 1950, we're in 2014. Our legislation would give the Postal Service the tools that it needs to compete in the 21st century. It would not tie the hands of the Postal Service. It would allow them to come up with new ideas to generate new revenue. And there are a lot of ideas that are out there. I mean, you know this better than I do. A couple of Christmases ago, I walked into the Postal Service in Burlington, Vermont, and I had a gift for my grandkids. And I said, could you package this gift? Nope, we can't do it. It's against the law. People walk into the Postal Service today and they're saying, look, can you make 10 copies of this document for me? Nope, can't do that. It is against the law. People walk in a rural post office and say, I need a hunting license, I need a fishing license. Nope, we can't do that. I want to ship beer or wine to the Postal Service. No, can't do that. Maybe I'm a low-income person who wants to start a little bank account through the Postal Service. No, can't do that. Bottom line is there are enormous opportunities out there for the Postal Service to reach out to the American people, expand services, make money, create new jobs. So here's what this whole struggle comes down to. Postal Service is burdened with this $5.5 billion disastrous mandate every year. And then people say, look, the Postal Service is going broke. We got to cut, cut, cut. Others of us say we got to get rid of this $5.5 billion unnecessary burden. We've got to go out and compete and expand and create new jobs and give the American people a postal service which responds to their needs. That's the struggle. Let's stand together on that. Now, what I want to do just for a moment is to tell you what you already know. Now, you are hit by the attacks against the Postal Service, but all of you understand that this war against postal workers is part of an overall right-wing philosophy, which is part of a class warfare being waged by the billionaires against the middle class of this country. And this is something I will never understand. There are people out there, people like the Koch brothers, a family that is today worth $80 billion. Now, you would think, especially since they increased their wealth by $12 billion last year alone, you would think that with a mere $80 billion, you just might have enough to live comfortably. You might think that. But this is what, honest to God, I just do not understand. How does it happen that people who are worth $80 billion, second wealthiest family in America, want more and more and more, and in order to get more, they want to crush millions of working families in this country? That greed is what is destroying this country, and we have got to stand up and fight back. And here is the fact. You don't see it on TV too much, but here's the fact that all of you know. And it's interesting. You know these things probably as well as any group of Americans, not only because of your own life and family struggles and experience, but you know it because you're out there talking to people every single day. You see America. You see America. You talk every day to people who are working longer hours for lower wages. You talk to friends of yours out on your route whose job went to China and they're now working for 50% of what they used to work for. You talk to people who are wondering how they'll be able to send their kids to college when the cost of college is so high and so many kids are coming out of school deeply in debt. You talk to people who are working 40 or 50 hours a week, but whose wages are so low that they have to go to an emergency food shelf in order to get the food they need to take care of their families. And I want to thank you for your help in helping your fellow Americans by putting canned goods into those emergency food shelves. Here's the reality. You know why people in this country are angry? Do you know why it is imperative that we protect decent paying union jobs in the Postal Service and everywhere? Since 1999, median family income in this country has gone down by $5,000. You see all of the new technology out there in your jobs. Yet despite the increase in productivity, you produce more, workers all over America produce more, and yet they are earning less. That average American worker, male worker today, listen to this, and you'll know why people are angry and why they are disgusted and why they want Congress to start doing something. Typical male workers, that male worker right in the middle, today made $283 less last year than he did 44 years ago. Typical female worker, that female worker right in the middle, earned $1,700 less last year than she made in 2007. Rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, the middle class is disappearing, and that is the fight that we have got to win to turn that around. But it is not just that workers who are producing more because of increased technology are getting less. There is something else going on in America which is destroying the fabric of what has made us historically a great country. And that is that while we have more people living in poverty today than ever before, that while we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth, that while the middle class disappears, there is something else going on, and that is the wealthiest people, the top 1%, are doing better than at any time in American history. So we are in a situation where the vast majority of the people struggle, people on top and large corporations do phenomenally well. Today in America, and I want you to hear this, because you don't see it on TV very often, but I want you to understand what's going on in our country. The top 1% owns 38% of the financial wealth of this country. That's bad. You know what's even worse? The bottom 60%, strong majority of the American people, bottom 60% own 2.3% of the wealth. 1% on top owns 38%, bottom 60% owns 2.3%. We have one family, the Walton family of Walmart, that has the distinction of owning in this one family more wealth than the bottom 40% of the American people. And because Walmart pays low wages with minimal benefits, the Walton family is the largest recipient of welfare of any entity in America. Many of their workers, because of low wages, have got to go on to Medicaid or food stamps or government-financed affordable housing because the wealthiest family in America is not paying them a living wage. And that is not acceptable. Now, I talked about wealth. What about income? Since the Wall Street crash of 2008, caused by the greed and recklessness and illegal behavior by the crooks on Wall Street, since that period, 95% of all new income went to the top 1%. So all over America, people are saying, am I going to get a 2% increase this year? Are they going to lower my wages? Are they going to cut my health benefits? 95% of all new income goes to the top 1%. So that is where we are as a nation. Large corporations are enjoying record-breaking profits. Wealthiest people in this country are doing phenomenally well. Billionaires are pouring hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into the political process in order to privatize the Postal Service, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, education. That's where we are. Now, what do we do about it? Well, I'll tell you what we do about it. If we are concerned not only for ourselves, if we are concerned not only for our parents, but if we are concerned about our kids and our grandchildren and about the future of this country, we have got to organize, educate, and fight back in a way that this country has never seen. When millions of people understand what is at stake, when millions of people understand what the billionaire class wants to do to working people in this country, we will win this struggle. Because we are going to come up with an agenda that says, no, you're not going to cut the Postal Service. We're going to improve and expand service. No, you're not going to cut Social Security. You're going to expand Social Security. No, you're not going to cut Medicare. We're going to join the rest of the industrialized world and have a national health care program guaranteeing health care to all people as a right. No, you're not going to cut federal funding to education. We're going to create a system where every kid in this country, regardless of the income of his or her family, can get a college education if they have the ability. No, we're not going to defund funding for infrastructure. We're going to put millions of people back to work rebuilding our roads and our bridges and our water systems and our wastewater plants. Some of my Republican colleagues not only want to not raise the starvation minimum wage that we have in Washington of $7.25 an hour. Can you imagine that? People trying to get by on $7.25, $8, $9 an hour. You know what they say? No, we're not going to raise it. We want to eliminate the concept of the minimum wage. And in high unemployment areas, if people are prepared to work for $4 an hour, that's great. That's their idea. We say every American who works 40 hours a week is entitled to a livable wage and not live in poverty. So that is where we are. We are in, and I do not want to mince words. If these billionaires get their way, they're going to move this country into an oligarchic form of society where a handful of billionaires control the economy and the political life of this country. And for the sake of our children, our grandchildren, for everything that we love in this great country, we have got to defeat them. We have got to grow the middle class. We have got to restore American democracy. And in the midst of that struggle, it is no accident that the billionaire class wants to destroy the trade union movement in America. You know why? Because they understand when people are organized, when they're standing together, when they are educated, when they're prepared to fight back, that is the way we defeat the billionaire class. So what we've got to do is grow the trade union movement. We've got to bring more and more people onto our side, because at the end of the day, they have the money, will never match their money. They have endless amounts of money. But we have the people. And when people stand together, we will not be defeated. Thank you all for what you are doing, not only to protect the employees of the Postal Service, but to protect working people all over this country. And I believe from the bottom of my heart that when we stand together and we organize, no matter how much money the other side has, we're going to win, and we're going to create the kind of America that our kids will be very proud of. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Please accept this gift on behalf of the NALC. And before I get a motion from the floor, is there any objection to making Senator Bernie Sanders an honorary member of the National Association of Letter Carriers? Hearing none, so ordered. How about a letter carrier cheer for the senator? Hip, hip! Hooray! Hip, hip! Hooray! Hip, hip!